Our home had been quiet for months. Not peaceful quiet, but the kind that lingers in the air after too many things have gone wrong. My father rarely spoke. My mother tried to act strong, but her eyes told the truth. And I had stopped believing anything could change. Even the house felt different. The ticking of the old wall clock grew louder. The refrigerator hummed like it was sighing. Every evening, the sun set without any of us noticing. It was the winter after we lost my younger brother. People say time heals. But they never tell you how long it takes. They never explain that sometimes, time doesn't heal at all. It just freezes. And that winter, we were frozen. That morning, the porch was coated with thin frost. When my mother bent down to pick up the flower, her breath made faint white clouds in the air. It was a daisy. Fresh. Soft. Still warm from someone's hand. It wasn't wrapped. There was no ribbon. No note. Just a single daisy laid gently on the step, like someone whispering, "I'm thinking of you." My mother held it to her chest. She didn't cry. But for the first time in months, she didn't look completely lost. My father stared at it for a long while. He didn't say a word, but later that morning, he fixed the squeaky hinge on the porch door. The first repair he had done since my brother passed. It was small. So small most people wouldn't notice. But grief teaches you to see the small things. And that flower felt like someone had reached through the fog and touched our family with a bit of light. At first, we assumed it was a neighbor. Or a member of the church. Or someone from my brother's school. But when we asked around, no one knew anything. No one had seen a girl. No one had heard footsteps. No one had been near our porch that early in the morning. It felt almost unreal. Like a visitor from another story had stepped into ours for a brief moment. My aunt joked. Maybe an angel stopped by. My father didn't smile, but he didn't dismiss it either. We weren't superstitious. But when life shatters, you start believing in small miracles again. The next morning, just after sunrise, there was another flower. This time, a rose. A pale pink one. Placed in the exact same spot. My mother gasped. My father stepped outside, half expecting someone to be standing at the edge of the yard. But again, there was no one. The strange thing was the timing. It was always early. Early enough that the street was still empty. Early enough that only someone who didn't want to be seen would come. And roses. Roses aren't cheap. Who would spend money like that? For a family they didn't know. Unless it wasn't about money at all. Unless it was about something else. Something deeper. My father used to be a cheerful man. The kind of dad who waved at neighbors from the driveway. And laughed loudly during every barbecue. But after my brother's accident, he barely spoke. And rarely stepped outside. And yet, that second morning, after seeing the rose, something shifted in him. He brewed a fresh pot of coffee. He opened the curtains. He even said, "Maybe we should repaint the porch this spring." It was like the flower reminded him of life. Of seasons. Of color. Maybe even of hope. He didn't say it outright. My father wasn't the type. But from the way he kept glancing at that rose, carefully placed in a small glass cup on the dining table, I knew something inside him was starting to thaw. And all because a teen girl had quietly visited our porch. For the next week. Every morning, right at dawn, there was a flower waiting for us. A tulip, a sunflower, a lily. Each one different. Each one fresh. Each one arriving without sound. My mother began waking up earlier, just to check the porch. Sometimes she sat by the window with her tea, watching the sky brighten. My father began joining her. He didn't say much, but he sat beside her without being asked. Before long, they began talking again. Quietly at first, then more naturally. Our home wasn't healed. Far from it. But the flowers were doing something none of us could explain. They were pulling us gently forward. One morning at a time. The clue came on the 10th morning. It wasn't a flower this time. It was a tiny folded paper, tucked beneath a soft marigold. On the paper was a sentence. Just one. I hope this helps your mornings feel a little lighter. The handwriting was neat but young. Soft curves. Simple strokes. Definitely a girl. But whose daughter? From what neighborhood? Why our family? My mother held the note in her trembling hands and whispered. She knows something, but what? Something about the handwriting felt familiar. Not personally, but emotionally. It wasn't the handwriting of someone doing a random good deed. It felt more intentional. More personal. Almost like she was speaking from the same place of pain we were in. So I said quietly, "Mom, she must have lost someone too." My mother nodded slowly. Her eyes softened. And for the first time since my brother's funeral, she reached out and held my father's hand. That note, those simple words, did something none of us saw coming. It made us want to find her. Not out of curiosity, but gratitude. 2 days later, before sunrise, my father thought he heard footsteps on the porch. Soft ones. Quick ones. He opened the front door gently, hoping not to scare her. Outside, the sky was still dark blue. The in-between shade before morning fully arrives. And there, at the end of our walkway, was a silhouette. A small figure. A girl in a hooded jacket. Walking briskly, holding something near her chest. "Excuse me," my father called out. Not loudly, but urgently. The girl stiffened. She froze for half a second, as if deciding whether to turn or run. And then she ran. Not wildly. Not frantically. But with a kind of practiced speed. Like someone used to disappearing before being noticed. My father didn't chase her. He couldn't. Not in the emotional state he was in. But he stepped outside and whispered into the cold air. "Thank you." Even if she didn't hear it. On the porch that morning was a carnation. Wrapped around its stem was a thin ribbon. Faded blue. A little frayed on the edges. It looked old. Used many times. My mother recognized it immediately. It was the same type of ribbon hospitals use when wrapping keepsakes for children. My mother's voice broke as she said, "She's grieving too." And that changed everything. Once we realized the girl wasn't just being kind, but grieving too. The meaning of the flowers deepened. Each bloom felt heavier. Warmer. More human. My father began speaking more openly about my brother. My mother began cooking again. Even making a few of my brother's favorite dishes. I started spending less time in my room and more time with them, slowly reclaiming the moments we had all been avoiding. Our home didn't fill with joy overnight. Grief doesn't work that way. But it filled with something quieter. Something that had been missing for a long time. Connection. And we owed that fragile, returning warmth to a girl whose name we still didn't know. That evening, my father finally said the thing we had all been thinking. We should find her, he murmured. Not to ask her to stop. Not to make this complicated. Just to tell her thank you. My mother nodded slowly. Yes. And maybe she shouldn't have to grieve alone. I agreed. Because somehow, in the quiet exchange of flowers, we felt connected to her. As if our pain and hers were woven from the same thread. We didn't realize then that finding her would uncover a story deeper than any of us were prepared for. But that search, the search for the girl who left the flowers, began that night. And it would change everything. The next morning, my father woke up before the sun. He stood by the window with a cup of warm coffee, the steam drifting upward like thin morning clouds. My mother joined him, wrapping a shawl around her shoulders. I sat at the dining table, pretending to read, but really listening for any sound outside. We didn't plan to confront the girl. We didn't want to scare her away. We just wanted a glimpse, a chance to understand her. But the morning passed quietly. No footsteps. No shadow. No flower. It was the first morning in 2 weeks without one. A strange silence settled over the porch. Almost like the absence of the flower was louder than its presence. My mother whispered, "I hope she's all right." And for the first time, we worried about her. That day felt longer than usual. My father checked the porch twice. My mother opened the door more often than necessary, as if the girl might suddenly appear. The house felt oddly empty. It wasn't just the missing flower. It was the missing emotion behind it. That soft, anonymous kindness that had filled our mornings with light. Late that night, my father said quietly, "She didn't come because something must be wrong." My mother nodded slowly. "I feel that too." We sat together in the living room, the lamp casting a warm glow, the air heavy with worry. My father finally stood and said, "Tomorrow, let's go find her school." I was surprised. But deep down, I knew it was the right thing to do. The next morning, we headed to the local middle school. A modest brick building with tall windows. And a playground still wet with morning dew. My father approached the front office. He cleared his throat, steady but gentle. "There's a young girl, maybe around 12 or 13, he began. "She's been leaving flowers at our home. We don't know her name, but we believe she might be going through something difficult." The receptionist paused. Her face softened. And then she said, "I think I know who you're talking about." She left for a moment, returning with the school counselor. A woman with wise eyes and a calm presence. The counselor listened as my father explained everything. When he finished, she closed her eyes for a brief moment, as if deciding what she could share. Then she spoke in a quiet voice. "There is a girl who's been grieving alone for a long time. Her name is Emily." My mother whispered, "Emily." The counselor nodded. "She lost her older brother last year. It happened suddenly. She hasn't talked about it much. But we've noticed she disappears early in the mornings. My father swallowed hard. My mother covered her mouth with her hand. And I felt a tightness in my chest. Emily, the girl who left the flowers, was walking the same road we were.
The counselor invited us to her small office. The kind with soft chairs and children's drawings taped to the walls. She told us that Emily's brother, Daniel, had died in an accident the previous spring. He was her best friend, she said softly. She still wears his old jacket nearly every day. She described how Emily had been trying to cope in ways adults often overlook. Staying quiet, helping others, giving small things even when her own heart was breaking. She's the type of child, the counselor continued, who gives love because she doesn't know what to do with her grief. My mother's eyes filled with tears. My father stared at the floor, nodding slowly. I understood then. Emily didn't leave flowers because she pitied us. She left them because she recognized our pain. And because giving us hope was the only way she knew how to hold on to her own. The counselor couldn't give us Emily's address. But she did tell us the street she lived on. A quiet road lined with maple trees. Only a 15-minute walk from our home. So that afternoon, my family and I slowly drove down that street, looking for any sign of a porch with flower pots, or a house with a girl who might be her. We didn't plan to knock. Just to know. To see the world she came from. Halfway down the road, we saw a small house with faded blue shutters. On the porch sat an empty clay pot. And a ribbon that looked exactly like the one we'd found on the carnation. My mother whispered, "That must be her home." And as we sat there, quietly observing from the car, a woman stepped outside. Tired looking. Gentle. Carrying a grocery bag. Behind her, standing in the doorway, was a girl in a gray jacket, with wide, careful eyes. Emily. She was smaller than I expected. Delicate. With a kind of cautious stillness, often seen in children who have endured too much too early. She watched the street closely, as if expecting something but hoping nothing would come. Then her mother turned to her and said something softly, touching her cheek in a comforting way. Emily nodded, but her shoulders dropped slightly, a sign of a sadness she didn't want her mother to notice. My mother whispered, "Oh, sweetheart," as if Emily could hear her. My father placed a hand on my mother's arm. "We shouldn't approach her yet," he said gently. "She comes to us for a reason. Let's let her choose the moment." So we simply watched her for a few more seconds. This small girl, who had carried her grief to our porch every morning, so our family wouldn't have to walk through ours alone. And then we quietly drove away. The next morning, just when we had begun to accept that the flowers might have stopped, my mother opened the front door and gasped. A daisy. Fresh. Bright. Simple. The same kind as the very first flower she had left. But this time, there was a note. Small. Folded. Written in the same handwriting as before. "I'm sorry I missed yesterday. I was having a hard morning." My mother pressed the note to her heart. My father whispered, "She's talking to us now." For the first time, we felt we could respond. My mother took a small card, wrote carefully, and set it on the porch. With a flower of our own. A soft pink rose. Her note said, "Your flowers have brought light to our home. Thank you, Emily. We are here if you ever need us." I watched her place it gently, her hands trembling. We didn't know if Emily would accept it. We didn't know if she would be frightened, or touched, or confused. All we could do was wait. The next morning, we woke earlier than usual. The sky was still a deep blue-gray, and the street was silent. We stayed inside, watching from the living room window, so she wouldn't feel confronted. At 6:12 a.m., we saw her, Emily, walking slowly, holding something close to her chest. When she reached our porch, she paused. She looked at the rose my mother had left. Then she looked at the note. Her hand shook slightly as she unfolded it. And then, for the first time, we saw her smile. It wasn't a big smile, just a small lift at the corner of her mouth. Fragile, brave, beautiful. She reached into her pocket, pulled out a fresh lily, and placed it next to the rose. Then she lifted her head and looked directly toward the window, where we were standing. Our eyes met. Just for a second. A brief, quiet second. But in that moment, something passed between us. An understanding deeper than words. Emily didn't run this time. She simply nodded once, as if to say, "I know you see me. And I'm okay with that." Then she turned and began walking down the street. My mother covered her mouth with her hand, trying not to cry. My father whispered, "Let's give her time. She'll come closer when she's ready." And he was right. 2 days later, Emily came again. This time, she wasn't carrying a flower. Instead, she held a small object wrapped in cloth. She placed it gently on the porch and stepped back. After she left, my mother slowly unwrapped it. It was a patch. A fabric patch from a jacket sleeve. A patch with the name Daniel, carefully embroidered in blue thread. My father closed his eyes. My mother pressed the patch to her cheek. I understood immediately. It was from her brother's jacket. A piece of him. A piece she had chosen to share with us. Not to give away, but to connect. To say, "We have both loved and lost." It was the most personal gift she had given us yet. It happened a week later. The morning was soft and warm, the sky brightening early with spring-like colors. Emily stepped onto our porch, holding a marigold. Her expression serious, but her eyes gentle. My father slowly opened the front door. Not wide. Just enough. Emily froze. But she didn't run. My father spoke softly. "Emily, thank you." She looked down, her shoulders lifting slightly as she inhaled. Then she whispered, "You're welcome." Her voice was tiny, barely above a breath, but it carried more weight than anything I had heard in a long time. My mother stepped forward slowly. "We're very grateful, sweetheart," she said. "You've helped us heal more than you know." Emily nodded, eyes glistening. Then she said something we didn't expect. "I just didn't want you to feel alone." My mother's voice broke. "Oh, honey. Neither should you." And then, For the first time, Emily cried. Not loudly. Not uncontrollably. Just soft, quiet tears. That came from a heart carrying too much. My mother knelt, opened her arms, and Emily stepped into them, as gently as a falling leaf. It was the most fragile moment I had ever witnessed. Two grieving hearts, finally allowed to rest in the safety of understanding. From that day forward, Emily didn't leave flowers anonymously. She visited with her mother sometimes. Other mornings, she came alone, sitting on the porch steps. As we talked about school, her brother, our brother, and all the little things she'd kept inside for too long, our home became not just a place of loss, but a place of shared stories. A place where grief didn't isolate, but connected. A place where a teen girl found a second family. And where we, in our brokenness, found a new kind of healing. In the kindness she had begun. Months later, on a warm morning near summer's end, Emily left her final flower. A white lily. With a note. Thank you for helping me heal. I think my brother would be happy now. I'll visit. Not because I'm sad, but because I love you. My mother cried reading it. My father held her. And I realized something important. Emily didn't save our family. We saved each other. Through small acts. Quiet moments. Shared grief. And slowly returning hope. Epilogue, a new season. It's been years since then. Emily still visits. Not every morning. Not with flowers. But with stories from school. Laughs from her day. And the occasional hug. That stays a little longer than before. She's grown taller now. More confident. More open. And in our home, there are more pictures on the wall. More warmth in the halls. More life in every corner. One girl, with one flower, changed an entire family. And we, with one open door, helped her change too. Because sometimes, healing doesn't happen all at once. Sometimes, it arrives quietly, softly, gently, like a flower on a porch. At dawn.